What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to go from this naked looking skeleton of a shed to this baby with siding and sheeting. Stick around, find out. So first order of business is taking those diagonal braces off the outside and getting them on the inside. Right now is your opportunity to kind of push everything to where it's level and lock it in place, because once that sheathing and siding goes on, it's not going anywhere. I had Brad help me with this one. I'm sure you've seen him before if you watch all my videos.
We're gonna get it. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Call me if you need me. Thanks, man.
I built this 5/8 jig and spacer block to keep an even spacing at the bottom edge of my trim. Anytime you're doing trim, it's good to have a small sacrificial piece with a miter on it to help get everything into position. Anytime you're splicing trims, you want to cut it at a 45, so when the humidity changes and the wood expands or contracts, there won't be an obvious seam. I like to arrange it so my second piece has to tuck behind the first piece. I stuck a shim behind this piece so that it would meet the piece around the corner a little more square. Here I started with my cut off from the last piece. It's only here temporarily, so I can cut my next piece to the right size. I'll come back to this piece and trim the hair off when I'm done. I really took my time with the front trim and this side trim because it's what you're going to see. The next two sides are behind the shed and against the fence, and nobody's really going to see it, so I just used butt seams and kind of rushed through it. There's that butt seam at the back splice. And there's that butt seam at the back corner. You want to cut the bottom plate out of your doors before the siding goes on, while it's still easily accessible. At first, I just tack the boards with 3 or 4 screws to make sure all my pieces are aligned properly. Once I like how it all looks, I'll go back and screw everything off. Here I'm measuring to my door header so I can get a screw in and not miss.
Alright, I'm going in. I'm cold. Come on, Pep, let's go.
I did a quick mock-up of how the seams should come together on this siding. The second piece laps over the first piece. And this is where your screws should go. This is what your first piece should look like on the stud to ensure your screws hit the center. When ripping a small amount off of any sheet good, it's helpful to pinch your saw's guard with your thumb and pointer finger. I know it's a little nerve-wracking getting your fingers close to a saw, but if you were to twist a saw and it kicked back, the saw would go backwards. Never ever put your fingers behind a circular saw. Eventually these corners are going to get 3.5 inches of trim, so you're better off being short of that corner rather than overhanging. If you don't have an oscillating multi-tool, you can also drill a hole in each corner to mark its location, then cut with a circular saw from the other side. If the shape of the blade makes the corners tough to get to without overcutting, use a jigsaw to sneak up to your line. I put a screw in the corner so I'd have something to hang my chalk line from. In my next video, I'll be using these panels to make the doors. Don't miss it. Circular saws can be very dangerous. If you're not comfortable cutting on a wall like this, just use a jigsaw. Be sure to mark your panel which side is up. Also, if you have more than one door, be sure to label which one's which. Now that the siding is screwed off, this diagonal brace can come down. The siding makes a huge difference in how rigid the structure is. At this point, it won't even budge. I'm taking just a hair off my first piece because it was overhanging the side just a touch. I'd rather be short than long on that edge. This top edge will eventually get wrapped with ice and water shield, then covered with a fascia board. Once again, you would rather be short than long on this top edge. If you're not really experienced with a circular saw, you probably shouldn't try this cut. And if you do, keep your fingers far away. I do value my fingers, and rewatching this clip, they look like they're way too close to danger. You can always measure and cut your pieces before installing. This is the faster way though, but it's also more dangerous. I want to take a moment here to thank all of you for being here. I'm a new creator and I plan on uploading DIY and woodworking content regularly. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, please drop me a like or subscribe to my channel. This will really help me out and I appreciate all of you. Thanks. Here I'm just marking the back with a pencil, then cutting the piece out with the circular saw. Eventually this will get covered with fascia board, so it doesn't have to be pretty, but it is necessary to keep the fascia board aligned with the face of this wall. When cutting out a small piece like this, you never want to hold the piece in your hand while making the cut. clamp it or screw it down to something else so you can make your cut safely. I'm moving slowly and taking my time because this board weighs almost as much as I do and I'm up on a baker scaffold. Accidentally stepping off the edge of this thing would be pretty tragic. If you really don't want to climb on the roof, you can probably do this on a ladder from the inside of your shed. You want to orient your plywood to cover across as many studs as you can. This will give you the most strength along your structure. Before the siding was on, if I tried to climb onto the roof, the whole shed would have collapsed. The siding really makes a big difference. This thing's really solid now. Here I'm just making sure I'm half on that stud so my next piece can go on smoothly. A safer way to go up and down the roof would be an extension ladder. This is kind of a sketchy maneuver and it takes a bit of upper body strength. Again, I'm just tacking my boards with 3 or 4 screws to make sure the next few boards align properly. Once I'm happy with it, I'll screw everything off. That 2x4 scrap gives my cut-off piece room to fall. This will keep the material from pinching together and binding my blade. Some of these roof rafters are slightly bowed, so I marked my 16s off the edge and pulled them into alignment where they should be. Here I use a clamp to pull my stud where it should be while I filmed and screwed it in place. I push my next full sheet to the far end, so that the seams on my rows of plywood are never aligning. This will add strength. Anytime your seams line up, it becomes a wiggle point in your structure. In the industry, we call this staggering your seams. If your plywood sheets are bowed at all, you want to install it so the middle of the board is bowing upwards. You never want your edges curling upwards. Here I cut my piece a little too long. As my pops would say, I got a case of the inchies. The inchies is a somewhat common phenomenon in construction, where you have a number in your head, but your mark ends up 1 inch too long or too short. Comment below if you've ever fell victim to the inchies. And just like that, we have siding and roof sheathing. If you made it to the end of this video, you're the real MVP. Thank you all for coming. Be sure not to miss the next part in my series where we make doors and install hardware. It came out amazing and you don't want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. See ya.